Welcome back to your newest obsession, the NeuroSpicy MomPod. I am your host, Austin Marie, and I am so glad you're here. As always, this is your cozy, judgment-free corner of the internet where we talk about neurodivergence, nervous systems, parenting, and the bigger systems shaping all of it so we can start making sense of what we've experienced and how to move forward. Today's conversation is going to sit right at that intersection. I am joined by Gabriel, also known as the Indomitable Black Man. Gabriel is a special education teacher, a former registered behavior technician, and an author of the book Parent Behavior Encyclopedia. His work sits at the intersection of parenting, education, social justice, and religion, and how all of those systems shape the way we understand behavior, especially in children. And I think this is such an important conversation because so much of what we talk about on this podcast is how behavior is often misunderstood, mislabeled, or even controlled without actually asking what's underneath it. So today we're going to unpack that. We're going to talk about what behavior actually is, how systems influence it, and what it looks like to move from control into understanding. Gabriel, I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me here.
So why don't we start off with you telling us a little bit about yourself?
God, that's always that question. A little bit about myself. I am an educator. I taught in the school system here in Florida. I left it because I felt like it was not beneficial enough. I was not able to move the way I needed to help the students that I needed to help. I was a former registered behavioral technician, or I am a former registered behavioral technician in the field of applied behavioral analysis, which is where I learned most of everything I teach. I preach, but even in that, there were areas of problems in that field. It is growing, but there were issues. Um, I'm an author. I've written 3 books so far. I love kids. I love helping families, and that's me.
I was drawn to your content immediately. I found you back when I was still on TikTok, and then I was so happy you showed up on my meta feed. But what I really liked is that you moved past the behavior and you were explaining why controlling the behavior is not really addressing the root of the problem. And I was an educator as well who also stepped away because I felt like I was contributing to the school to prison pipeline. And I also come through teaching through more of like a psychological neuroscience understanding of it, which is a different type of way to go into a classroom than a teacher who, their mom was a teacher and their mom was a teacher, and it's just, we're all teachers in my family. What do you find, because as a special education teacher you are already going more in depth into child development than a general education teacher does, but how did you go from like the perspective of teachers, which is like, I need to teach this curriculum, I need to get through this curriculum, all the kids have to stay on pace so I can do that, to a more focused of relational aspect with your student?
It honestly had to do a lot with my mom. So I come from an educator family. My mom was a teacher. My sisters are teachers.
I
We
love that.
found a sister that was on my dad's side that was also a teacher. We found her during COVID. So it's like, it's in
It's
the
in your
blood.
blood.
Yeah.
Jinx.
Um, and I also saw how my mom would develop relationships with her students. Like
Mm.
they would come to her because they trusted her so much. And even past that, I realized that I can't correct a kid if they don't know who I am, if they don't trust me, if they don't know that I have their best interest in mind when I do it. Otherwise, I'm just some other adult who's just trying to control them. So before I correct any kid, I have to connect with them. I have to know, who are you? Why are you doing the things that you do? It's a scientific curiosity. Why is your behavior existing? It can't be just because it's existing. What's happening with you? What's happening in your environment? What's happening in your life? That helps me understand who that person is, why they're going to act the way they are, discover any patterns in their behavior, and then I can address that root. So it only makes sense to do that. To me, it doesn't make sense to do it any other way but to know who that child is, to have that relationship with them, to understand how they speak through their behavior.
So you kind of entered into the classroom with already a curiosity about children rather than like a sense of like, I expect you to do this when I need you to do this. And you feel
Right.
like you that was modeled to you from your mom.
Yes.
And I think that when I think back as a new teacher, I'm the first teacher in my family, so I didn't really have any models, and I'm first generation, and so I come from a very, "You do what I say, I am the big grown up, and you respect me because 'cause I'm bigger than you." But when I looked at the teachers who seemed to, like, flow through their classrooms, really have an easy time with their class, all the students loved them, they had that thing that you're talking about, and it was just like the students did go to them when
Mhm.
they were needing something. It didn't feel like the classroom was stressful. It felt like it was, like, calm and peaceful, and I think that's the piece that you're talking about is that relational moment. So if you see a teacher who was still trying to grasp onto the control, how can we model what your mom modeled for you, like, without criticizing the way they teach?
Absolutely. The biggest thing is to just be that person that the kid wants. Every kid wants to learn, whether they want to admit it or not. The issue
Mm,
is just how the curriculum is being presented. And so if you're a teacher who knows how that child is, if you've been a child before, you know what they're experiencing. As somebody who trains support staff, it's trying to show them by model, hey, hey kid, you're doing this, that, and the third. Tell me more about that. Oh, that's awesome, but are we supposed to be doing that or are we supposed to be on task? So how can we move from this back to the activity that we were doing? Show
mhm.
me how you do this. Showing them that, trying
Yeah.
to show that you can catch more flies with honey than you can with vinegar. Being that child, being the thing that that child needs is the best way to solve that issue. There's so much more I want to say about it, but I can't for the sake of time. For basically, modeling just looks like, hey, this is how you do it correctly. And then
Yes.
asking the teacher, hey, did you see how I did that? I connected with them before I corrected them. If you
Yeah.
do that, this is how
Watch.
it'll happen. Right.
Watch your days go from being power struggles to connection, like, just
Exactly.
with that shift of perspective. There are things when I look back as a newer teacher, I would work with special education teachers, I would work with their paras, and I would work with, people to try to learn how to support them, and when I
Hmm.
look back without really researching myself about neurodivergence, about nervous system regulation, about the fact that kids have to be in a regulated state before you can even access their ability to learn and connect. But I was being told you need to get them to comply. You need to get them to comply. And this is growth. If they comply within 2 asks, then they're growing. That was the way I thought I was supporting my students. But looking back, it was really a method of control.
Hmm.
Can you kind of break that down for other teachers who are kind of trying to shift of what systems are in place that we think are supportive, but are actually just ways of controlling the students? Is that too
Oof.
big? Is that too big?
No, no, you're jumping straight into the big question. So, okay, how you have to look at everything is you have to look at it as systems, just like you were saying.
Mhm.
These are systems. Can I get deep?
Please, I'm a
Okay.
Scorpio stellium. I hate the surface. Please, let's go.
Okay. So, okay, if we're being honest, education has not changed much in the last
Ever.
100 years, right? It's
Mhm.
the same thing. You have one person and they are telling this kid that they have to comply, and complying is only good in the system that we're in that is specifically oppressive. It is designed to be oppressive and to get kids acclimated to authoritarianism. That's just how that is. So, if
Mhm.
that's what you want from your kids, absolutely go for it. That's great. We think that it's more efficient if they're just sitting down and they're following instructions and learning this, but that's not the case for humans, right?
Mhm.
I have ADHD. Telling me to sit down and just focus on something, you have a better time of trying to find the Holy Grail. It's not going to work. I'm fidgeting right now. Right. Like I'll play with anything. Like my rings, I play with them.
Mhm.
And growing up, it was always sit down, focus, study. You're telling a neurodivergent person to do neurotypical things. That's not how this works. That's not how
Mhm.
any of this works. And so the best thing to do is to not look at the system because even the concept of accommodations and modifications are trying to force a square peg in a round hole. That's not how this works. You can't just offer these accommodations and modifications and think it's going to work. There has to be a complete shifting of our understanding of our relation to what it is to be neurotypical.
Yeah.
So that means if we're trying to support these students, let's focus less on making them sit here and write an entire paper. How can we get the concept taught to them? Okay, what does it take to write a paper? Let's break that down into very small steps. We need to focus on a main idea or a thesis. Then we need to have supporting details. Can we do that in a smaller environment where it's not going to take them writing a full 5 paragraph essay? Can we start off small and build from that? Those are things that we can do that go against what the system has taught us. That's how we can get kids to be more engaged in the work that they're doing, because the way it's presented could be throwing them off completely.
Mhm.
So that's one thing I would say. Other things that you can do that go against the system is teaching kids how to self maintain. And that goes outside of what the system says. That's just in the child. So if we know that kids can't put their hands on other kids, all right, how are we teaching them to keep their hands to themselves?
Mhm.
Why aren't they keeping their hands to themselves? What is the root cause of that issue? Okay, it's because there's a sensory overload, or maybe they don't understand that they're hitting people that hard. Then, okay, let's get them to think about that, and let's give them alternative actions that can help them meet that need without hitting somebody. Maybe there's, something else they can slap their legs or something, or,
Mhm.
it's just getting people to think outside of the box and thinking outside of their relation to what it is to be neurotypical.
Mhm.
Until we decenter that, we're always going to have band-aids that aren't going to lead to any real benefit or change in the child's understanding of education or getting them to that point of education.
Yeah. Well, and it's so layered and complex. It's like such a web, but I feel like the way that you are educating and you're giving scripts, because I remember watching, because I was like, "Oh, I like the way that you would model how to deal with things instead," which I need as a neurodivergent myself. Like, I just need the script of a different way to do it. And so I appreciate that you do that, but also the way that I find this synchronicity and both of us having to step away from the education system, because I think our brains are able to see the full system.
Mm.
And I, like you, I didn't feel, and I'm a little teacher. The oldest kids I taught were first graders. And then I ended with TK. So my whole focus, and I got tapped to do TK because they're like, "You're just really good at classroom behavior management." Yeah, I'm neurodivergent. I'm setting up systems for every kid that they're going to do really well. But I didn't know that yet. I didn't have that connection. And what I realized is that you can pour your whole life, your whole heart into your classroom, but it's only as good as that year that they're with you. And I would teach these kids how to use fidgets appropriately, like tools, not toys. I would teach them how to advocate, like eye contact makes me uncomfortable, but I am listening, or I just need to move my body. I would give them these words, but it only works if the next teacher is open to these accommodations. So I
Exactly.
felt like I was I'd be in my classroom and then I'd be seeing my previous students outside, kicked out of their classroom. And it just didn't feel like it was enough. So now I feel like what we're doing through my podcast, and I feel like what you do in your content, is we are going like underneath to the parents to educate them about why it's so important to focus our kids' nervous system safety. Because
Yeah,
then if they know what regulation feels like, they're not going to accept that from a teacher. And if they know that they have a parent who they can go home to and be like, "My teacher's yelling at me. She's not listening to me. She's not accommodating me, and I'm going to have your back." They will not grow up to be so submissive. They won't
that's
comply
it.
to an authoritarian I always mix up authoritarian and authoritative. It is one of my, like, dyslexia sticks. So if I say I'm talking about fascism, but
Yeah,
you're not gonna
yeah.
have a fascist government or a society if you teach kids what it feels like to have, like, safety. And, like,
Exactly.
I appreciate that, like, you're nipping it in the bud with the parenting, because like teaching and school is set up, like you said, to comply, 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 comply. And now it's like, how are we going to change that whole system? I don't even know unless we change it from inside.
That's literally it. I don't believe in fighting a tsunami. I can roll with it and just figure out how to divert the flow. And
Yes.
so this is, as a revolutionary, I had to learn how I had to go farther up the stream to affect everything downstream.
I
So
love
who's
that.
with the kids? Teachers and parents. Okay, let's work with teachers and parents.
I spoke about this with one of my last guests, Olivia Couch. She is the same way. She's trying to show how the way we treat students in classrooms, how that ends up in a fascist society. And it makes people so uncomfortable.
Mhm.
We were talking about how hard it is to make that connection for people. Do you feel that you are met with that resistance in being able to make these? Yeah, you are. Okay, okay. So how do you work with that? Like, how do you? I'm not trying to like offend you that like you are trying to make your kid a little fascist kid, but, like, you are because 'cause you're not seeing what the implications of this style of treating your child not like a full human. So how do
Yeah.
we not offend and instead connect to make it, like, that message penetrate?
Unpopular opinion, sometimes you have to offend people.
Yeah.
If people have seen my content, they know that on one hand, I can be very kind, very forgiving, very gracious. On the other hand, there is a time where I have to call people to task. I have to drag people across the coals because there has to be that awakening in their brain for them to realize, oh, snap, whoa, I'm being jarred. Well, snap, he's right. That's not my go to. I don't like to do that, but that is a place where I do go. So sometimes there is a place for that. But if we're trying to reach these people, the best thing to do is to get them to question their own logic, to show them that the farther out they go, the more dissonant they're becoming. So, one of the biggest issues is there are a lot of parents who believe in beating their kids.
Mhm.
And I am constantly met by people of the Black and Brown community that are like, oh no, this is what we're supposed to do. I grew up on this. I'm fine. Da, da, da. Okay, well, hold on. Do you want your kids to be fine or do you want your kids to do better than you?
Mhm.
At that point, they're at a crossroads. Either you want your kids to do better than you, or you want your kids to do less than or equal to. If that's the case, you know what the issue is. So let's go this way. If you don't want to go this way, that's an issue with you. It has nothing to do with your kid.
Mhm.
So getting them to question their own line of reasoning is one of the best ways to get them out of that cognitive dissonance. It's still going to be hard, but at least you're going to see where the seed is planted and they start to grow from there. Or it's as simple as just getting them to empathize with their child. Did you like it when it was happening to you? No. You think you deserved it. Why did you think you deserve it? Is there something else is there something else your parents could have done? Can you think of no other way that you could have changed your behavior without being hit? When you start to get them to question that, the next question they'll ask is, well, what am I supposed to do if such and such does this? I'm glad you asked
Mhm.
because you
Mhm.
can do this, and this. So I don't have to hit them for that? No, no, you don't. I've just given you 5 different ways that you can fix that one behavior without even having to raise your voice.
And
Crazy.
you give a lot of grace and compassion to the fact that of knowing that it is rooted in feeling like I wanna protect my kid. That's really what's going on. I was just picked up by an elderly lady from an Uber, and she very quickly turned right hard and let me know, that the problem with kids these days is that kids aren't smacking them, and I hit my kids and they all turned out great, and I was hit and I turned out great. And I wanna be like, "But are you because you're, like, 70 and you're driving me at midnight? Like, are you doing that great?" Like, there is a disconnect of, like, do your kids talk to you still? Like, do you have a good relationship? But the root is, like you said, we want them to do well in school because we think that's gonna help them succeed. I'm Portuguese and my parents are immigrants, but I'm white passing. People assume that I'm white, and I don't really know where I fit in that box. But there is, like you said, for Black and brown people, it's in the culture. It's in my culture too. I got the shoe brought up to me and you knew like,
Chocolate.
"Oh, yeah, oh god, she means it."
Mhm.
It was a support for us, like, "Oh, she's got the
Oh,
support
yeah,
style."
yeah.
So, like, there is that core knowing of, like, I see that this is your inner child trying to protect your own child, and it's so hard to have them push past that, like, "No, I'm not trying to make your child weak. I'm not trying to make your kid unfit for the world because the world is hard. This will actually be better for them."
Yeah.
And how do you once you break that logic, I feel like it's really just the fact that we don't teach people or parents, like, how our nervous system works and how we were developed or how we are
Yeah.
supposed to be developing.
That's literally a lot of it. one of the biggest issues that I see from all of the my parenting clients, I do parent coaching as well. My clients, the biggest issue that they have is they don't know how to self-regulate. Nobody's ever taught them how to do that. Growing up in the hood, growing up in an area of extreme poverty and trauma, you have these adults who are just as emotionally ignorant as a toddler. They
Mhm.
have no concept that they don't have to do certain things. They don't have a concept of calming down and relaxing. They go 0 to 100 immediately, and people wind up on t-shirts. People wind up in prison for the rest of their lives over a split-second decision that could have been changed if they knew how to self-regulate. And it's common. And it proliferates. Oh, don't let nobody disrespect you. Don't let nobody do this. Don't let nobody do that. You're going to put yourself in harm's way. You're going to put yourself in a position that's going to affect your entire lineage
Mm.
because you don't want to feel bad about somebody saying something. Somebody who does not know you, they don't have a heaven or a hell to put you in, but you're going to allow your emotions to take you to a place that you cannot come back from. That's crazy. That's interesting, my friend, but they don't know that they cannot be a slave to it. They
Yeah.
don't get it.
Well, and it's so frustrating, like, especially if you're a neurodivergent. So the way that we see past, like we see the systems and language for me at least means something so different. And I see people misusing and misunderstanding language. Like you said, like the whole demeanor of like, you respect me, you show me respect, and then getting so upset without understanding what respect really is. Like, you have to give respect to get respect. You can't actually make someone respect you just by like hurting them, or that if you treat your child with respect, you're being a soft parent and you're creating a soft child rather than understanding the ability to control your emotions and sit with hard feelings is literally the strongest person that you can be. But we don't see that and we don't teach that. And a big part of it is I always worked at a Title I school and recognizing like, how can we expect this perfect neurotypical behavior from students who haven't eaten yet? Their parents were arguing all night. So now we want them to be here, but emotionally they're here. They haven't eaten in a while. They don't know where their sister's at. Like there's all of these other issues. And we just expect kids to be able to like do what we want exactly when we want to do it. And
Absolutely.
without giving them, like you said, like you're not telling them what you want. You're hitting, don't hit. Now you're in trouble. You have to go sit by yourself and feeling rather than saying, safe hands, bro. What are you doing? Get those safe hands. Like what? Like, no, like you can't tell someone not to do something. Like, don't think of an elephant right now. Don't do it. You're in trouble. You have to tell them what I want you to
Exactly.
think of a giraffe, like
Exactly. And it's so lost on so many people, but I think that's just because of the conditioning that we've been in. We're forced to be in. We're forced into this conditioned society that is literally just authoritarian. It's just authoritarianism.
I know, and
It's
I
authoritarianism.
I want to highlight something that you also point out to parents, and I wonder if you see this a lot, that people think kids can manipulate.
Well, the more accurate statement is kids do not manipulate maliciously. So kids
Okay.
manipulate, but it's not manipulation in the same way that your ex manipulated you. Kids want needs met. They're biologically, physiologically designed to get their needs met. They are self-centered because they have to survive to maturation, right? So evolutionarily, they have to have certain things. They have to have food. They have to have physical interaction. They have to feel secure. They have to feel like they're learning things. They have to have attention. They have to have all of the things. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they need that, right?
Mhm.
And their brain is designed to do the same thing to get the same results. So if, let's say, you're at the store with little Billy and little Billy wants like some snacks or something like that, and he's cried before and you've given him the snacks, he's going to naturally do the same thing to get the same result. This is not about manipulation. This is about his brain operating the way the brain is supposed to. If I do this, then I get this. I see Janie over there, she's doing this and she's getting that. I wonder if I can do that and get the same thing. I do the same action. Do I get it or do I not get it? Okay, I got it. So that means anytime I do this, I can do that again. So if you've given into that a few times, now you have a behavior. It's a pattern of behavior. Now this kid will continue to do that. And if you start to establish a boundary, they're going to keep doing it because this is the brain's only way of trying to get the thing that it wants
Mhm.
until it realizes it can't do that anymore. And now you have an extinction burst and it's finally gone down. But they're not maliciously manipulating you. They're not doing that. They're not doing that. They don't cognitively, they're not doing that. They're only trying to meet a need based on what they have in the environment that their brain thinks that it needs.
Yes.
Now
And
there's nuance,
yeah.
but
Well,
by
the
and large, that's
malicious. It's the
right.
I love that you add that because you're right. I guess there is you can look at it manipulating that but it really is them trying to get those basic needs met. So I don't perceive that as manipulation, but I
Mhm.
guess it kind of is, but it's that malicious piece. And not
Right.
only that, but it's just a lack of understanding of of brain development. Children don't have the cognitive ability to think past themselves to be like, how am I going to my mom is super tired and I see that and I'm going to manipulate her and ruin her night by asking her to do something that I know she doesn't want to do.
Mhm.
Like that's just too high of cognitive thinking
Yeah,
for
that's too higher
children.
order.
It's too higher order. And I wonder if we put into our education system just the fundamentals of how our brain develops, how children develop, how so that we would know ourselves as kids
Mhm.
and then to also grow up into adults and to see behavior that children are supposed to tantrum. Kids and babies are supposed to lose their mind. They're supposed to dysregulate and then have a grown up regulate them so that their brain and nervous system can practice co-regulation. But we
Exactly.
but we don't know that about our own selves. And so we're
Mm-mm.
just chronically dysregulated. So if you have a parent who's like, I want to break this trauma. I want to break this generational trauma. I want to do it differently, which that was very much me. I got to reparent myself teaching TK and accidentally saying daily affirmations and stuff. But I was privileged to be in that space with that knowledge. Had I not had that and I come to you and I'm like, I lose my mind. I'm overstimulated. I'm overwhelmed. My two kids are also neurodivergent. Where does that parent even start? Where would you start with that parent who is wanting to do it different but has no idea or education? What's the first thing you teach them? The
Google.
Google.
And I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but like my biggest thing is how
How do you
I'll
not
say
know?
we can Google everything else. We'll Google everything else, but we can't Google how to work with our kids. My biggest pet peeve is when people say stuff about gentle parenting and I ask them, they're like, gentle parenting doesn't work. Define gentle parenting. Define it for me. I will ask it on my Instagram. If you see my Instagram and you see somebody ask that or say that, and then I ask them define gentle parenting, they will not respond.
But the
Because if you
perception of gentle parenting is like, watch this kid hit their parent. So, like, can you explain why that's not gentle parenting? Because that's what's on social media. Even if they were to go on like gentle parenting, you're going to see like half of it, like examples of what it can look like. But the majority of it is like, this is why. Look at this child losing their
Mhm.
mind. Like, how do you break that stereotype?
I tell them to Google it. Google it. Google what it means. Like, because if you Google gentle parenting, it tells you the pillars of what it is. And you can see, oh, that's not permissive parenting. Oh, gentle parenting has boundaries and structure and tells kids what specifically they should do. And it doesn't let them get away with stuff. It holds them accountable in the most healthy way. Go- Google is free. It's free, friends. That's how I'm a very A to B kind of guy. I don't want to have to go all the way around the alphabet and the numbers to get to the. Don't take my word for it. Look
But
it up.
it's not clickbait. It's not fun and easy
It's
to be. I think that's the hardest part. I think that's why it's so hard to promote because parenting is authoritarian.
authoritative.
Did I say it right? Authoritative. It's the
Yeah.
authoritative way that we're supposed to be parenting. But that word, first of all, is hard. It sounds a lot
Mhm,
like the bad one. So we're always getting it mixed up. Plus, like,
mhm.
it's not cool and cute to show like my child did something and now we're gonna have a really boring 15-minute conversation about it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
how can you teach parents that like it's not about immediate consequences, like you did this and now you get this punishment. Like that's not what it is. It's about regulating and co-regulating with
Exactly.
each other. And then I feel like that's gonna trickle into society. I know that this is going to work. We're changing the world right now with what we're doing because when you have a child and when I would have my students know regulation safety, like to be able to look at people's bodies and be like, you're upset. I can see your eyes are together and your face is sad. And like breaking it down like that, when we see other humans in distress, we're gonna know what that means and we're gonna naturally co-regulate with each other.
Exactly.
We really are meant to be a system of one, like working together and regulating each other.
Actually, I would with what you said, that's actually one of the reasons why a lot of parents don't like their kids to cry. I've always heard growing up, "Shut up before I give you a reason to cry," even though I'm already crying.
I'll show you
And
something to cry about,
right.
but
But
I am.
what it really is our human instinct is to see that person in distress and want to comfort. Our human drive is to want to comfort people. If you see your friend or somebody in your family or a stranger and they're crying or something, you're like, what's wrong? What's going on?
Yes.
Because our natural instinct is there something in the environment we should be concerned about? Are you hurt? Like we're communal creatures. But because of how we've been conditioned through authoritarianism, through colonization, through all of these horrible institutions, it forces us to suppress those urges. And we
Mhm.
get uncomfortable when we see that. Why is little Billy crying? Because I said something to them. I said something to him that he didn't like. And as a result, he started crying. And I'm now confronted with the reason that I made him cry. So
Mhm.
my instinct is to comfort him, but I can't comfort him because I just made him sad. I just did something to hurt him. So I should make him shut up so I don't have to deal with the discomfort that his crying is giving me that points back to my own shortcoming as a parent. It's crazy
It's
out here.
crazy.
It's
It's so
crazy.
crazy. But, like, it is that we cut each other off and, like, we don't wanna show any kind of emotion, you know, it's don't you cry about it, like, keep it sucked in, and we think that that's making tougher people, but it's like, in reality, now you have the emotional capacity of a two-year-old. You can't handle anything because
Mm-mm.
any sense of distress, you're triggered, and you can't deal with any kind of big feelings. I How do we turn this boat around? I mean, for me, I think it starts that's why I deal with the 4-year-olds and the 5-year-olds because it makes sense for my very black and white brain. We're kind to
Mhm.
everyone. Everyone's needs matter, and it gets complicated when you get up the ring of grades. Can I ask you what
Mhm.
ages you mostly taught?
Actually, I've done K through 12, and I might go back into teaching because this pre-K wants to hire me as their
Listen, listen.
long-term pre-K sub.
Okay, listen. All I'm gonna say is I exited teaching in a mental health crisis because our little ones, they're struggling. They are
Yeah.
they are struggling, and not to mention that we are in a different, like, way of socializing now. A lot of kids grew up with masks, not being able to see face, which is what we need to regulate, and now after that, it's just become school just feels like there's so much to catch up on. You know, we
Mhm.
can't even get to the learning because there's so much regulating that needs to happen first.
And I back when I was working as an ABA in registered as a registered behavioral technician, I worked with a lot of kids that were like 2 to 20. Like I've worked with the whole
That's
range,
crazy.
but I primarily worked with like the littles. I had to get out of it because Lord knows they're little petri dishes and I was tired of getting sick every 2 seconds. My God. How is the
Like
Ugh.
let me cough in your mouth.
Right. I I got COVID because one of my kids coughed on me.
Yes, of
Mm,
course. Well,
but
they would
they were
pull down their mask to cough and then put it back up like, "Cool, cool, cool.
thanks,
I'm
that's what I wanted.
excited to get COVID for the 3rd time. Thank you."
Love that gift. But with the little kids, I don't have a problem working with them. I love working with them, but I like working with the older kids because I'm able to relate to them in a way that I can get through to them. So I mentor teens, preteens. Matter of fact, the reason why I was almost late was because one of the kids I mentor, I had to take him from his house to downtown and everything like that. He's
Mm.
19. I've had 16-year-old. They lived with me. I've had little kids. Well, I can't say little, like sixth grade teens. Mentor
Little
them, buy them lunch and stuff like that. Sit with them, teach them self regulation. Like I had a teen that was about to fight a teacher. And honestly, I saw the full thing and I was like, well, I can kind of see why he wanted to fight you. But I had to snatch him out of the gymnasium. It was loud. He was in pain because of what the teacher had done. He was being yelled at, and he's overwhelmed. Snatched him right out. I said,
Mhm,
"Hey, everything that you're going through, you absolutely have a right to feel that way. I get it. You want to punch him in the face. I'll punch him too. But first, let's breathe. Let's
mhm,
take a deep breath. Let's
mhm.
let's calm down a little bit." And he was shocked at how well it worked. He was like, "Yo, Mr. Ace, that really worked. Like, I don't even know, but that really helped me calm down." Yes, yes, that can follow him. So he's
Mhm.
not doing the same things.
'Cause he's felt
It
it before.
Mhm.
He has that internal compass now, like, I actually have there's a different way. I could do this, or now I know there's a different way. And
Exactly.
I feel like that's what's, like, missing is, like, this piece with adults that, like, it is our responsibility as adults to be the calm space. Like, children actually don't have to make you comfortable. Like, it's your job to
Mhm.
teach them what it means to, like, you can have super duper big feelings. You can be so mad that you wanna punch me in the face. Like, I feel that way too. I can't punch you in the face though. Like, you can't do that. There has to
Yeah.
be another way, and a way to well, can I ask you, what's your favorite trick? 'Cause like I said, I'm a Scorpio and I'm neurodivergent. So, like, once I get, like, a certain level of whelmed, I'm like, boom! Like,
Mhm.
so what's your stop? Do you have, like, an emergency, like, "Oop, button, I'm gonna push that."
So a kid pulled out one of my locks,
Oh! What did
and
you
it
do?
was it was this lock specifically.
Ah,
Pulled it
ow.
right out of my head,
Owie.
and mm, I knew that if I had moved, I would have attacked him. Like,
Yeah.
I felt it. I'm a 6'9" martial artist. Like, I'm really good at what I do. I have great hands. I would have ripped into this kid something fierce. He was about 15 at the time, and he had 20 pounds on me, but I would have laid him out. I stop. Whenever I get to the point where I'm completely overwhelmed, I stop because I know whatever I do next can make or break everything.
Mhm.
So anytime a my hair pulling, people pulling my hair is an immediate trigger. So
Yeah.
anytime somebody pulls my hair, no matter who you are, unless you're like a little kid, it's an automatic trigger. I have to
Yeah.
tell like my students, like, yo, don't touch my hair. Like I might forget that you're a child. Don't don't touch my hair.
Like, I can
But for
regulate,
the
but there's a limit.
right, there's a limit. I freeze. I have to
You
freeze.
freeze.
Adults, kids, I freeze and I breathe and I think because if I don't, bad things can happen. So in that moment when he pulled out my lock and I'm looking at it on the floor, I'm like, okay, if I move, I'm going to attack him.
So you are consciously telling yourself to freeze. That's your
Yes.
emergency stopgap.
Mhm.
Okay, I like
Because
that.
I knew if I attacked him, I would have lost everything. I would have lost my career,
Mhm.
would have lost my job, would have lost my platform. Everything would have fallen in a split second over rage. It's not worth it. He's special needs. I can breathe. I got my lock. I went outside and I calmed down and I crocheted my lock back into my head. It's fine. Literally, it was fine. But it came with practice. It was not overnight. It was not something that I just magically developed. It's not a personality trait. It is something where I had to be in environments where I had to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
I worked at an ABA center where kids were always yelling. I've been bitten. I've been kicked. I've been spit on. I've been punched in the chest or punched in the face, backhanded. I mean, this kid, he cocked back and just backhanded me and he was like 6. So, I've been there. And in every moment, I had to realize they're kids, they're babies. They're not hurting me that bad. Like, ow, I'll be fine in like 2 seconds. Like, it's not that big a deal. I can come back from this. They're learning.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's
but
something that you have to force into that. Mhm.
But like you said, that pause, that ability to, like, push that emergency button and free, like, even though maybe that seems like really easy, like, "Oh, okay, just freeze, just stop and breathe." That is practice that can take years and years and years to do. And sometimes, like, I just like hearing other people's stopgap because it's you need in the moment of dysregulation, you kinda
Mhm.
have to have, like, a bunch of tools to practice. I love safe hands. I also, the way that my school district liked to hand out resources, it went top down. So by the time things got to TK, we were getting little trickles of resources. So it was really on me and my aides who were amazing, but it was a lot of biting and kicking and, them being so overwhelmed that they lost their access to their language where they're in full fight or flight. But when you get clocked, it gets real hard to remember, like, oh my God, they're 6. They're 6. You're fine. You're fine.
I don't know if you saw one of my videos that I put on TikTok. It was a woman who was wrestling with her kid. The
Like,
kid
for
had to be
real or
like 3
fake?
for real.
Oh.
Like, they were in the backseat of a car and they were wrestling. She was trying to get him off of her or something, and she's wrestling him, and he bites her, like, really hard. She
Biting's
turns around and everybody was like, "Oh, this kid needs to be taken from her," and everything like that. I reached out to her. I talked to her because I recognized it. She was tired.
Mhm.
And when I found out more of the story, they had tried everything, spanking him, yelling at him, grounding him, everything until it got to the point of residentials. They did everything they could to help this boy. Nothing was working. They were tired. She was tired. The kid who
Mhm.
pulled out my lock, his family, I recognized that look from working with them because they were tired. He would just beat up on him. And he was not small, and they were bigger, but they still weren't, they were getting up in age, so they were tired.
Mhm.
And it's when you are in those places where you're not getting enough sleep, you're not eating as healthy as you could, you're not exercising as much as you need to, you're focused on just your child and getting them the help that you're tired. You're stressed out, you're tired, and you're going to act out like that. I know the mother didn't want to do nothing to hurt her baby, but when you get to a point if you're just tired, it happens. So I try to make sure all of the parents that I work with, all the teachers that I work with, the self-regulation is your responsibility.
Mhm.
If you don't want to get if you don't want to go down that road, you have to take responsibility for your own health, for your own self-regulation, because the kids cannot do it. They can't
One
do
thou
it.
yes, 1,000 well, and when I left, like I said, I left on disability, it was because I was divorcing a narcissist, so my emotional regulation was on
Mhm.
0. I had nothing to give, and I recognize that, like, I can't regulate anyone else right now. I have to step
Yeah,
away because, like you said, the kid it's not on the kids, but it's really hard, especially if you do have a nonverbal child or just a child who is very aggressive. I think that something that you were able to see that I wish other people saw is that when you have a child who's really violent, really physical, it's you're exhausted not just that one time that they're physical, you're co-regulating with them all day. You're making sure that they don't get to that point of violence and while also keeping yourself regulated, the emotional toll, the exhaustion of having to be on and monitoring and prepping and making sure everything's safe. We don't have the systems set up to support these families so that they're not collapsing themselves. Of course, she didn't wanna
exactly.
hurt her baby, but, like, I bet she had nothing left in her. You know, like, where was the support for someone to tap her out and be like, "Yo, you go calm down, go take a shower, let me step in." Like, I'm so sad that we don't have support for I mean, that's
Mhm.
very extreme cases, but it just trickles down. Like, you can't regulate children if you're always stressed out, if you're never given the rest that, like, we need as human beings.
Exactly.
Can we just treat people like humans again? Get back to, like
Well, first, we'd have to believe that everybody is human, and, it's 2026, and we're still arguing
are
about
we
who is a
still
human and who is
debating this? Like, come on, guys.
my god.
And my belief is if we center nervous system regulation, you can't deny humanity. You
Yeah,
just can't. You cannot deny. And I think that's why our school system tries so hard to rip our own autonomy because it's like, well, if I don't have any rights to my own body and I have to ask that person to go to the bathroom, then like, who are you to demand better? You know, like,
yeah, and that's so we know better, we can do better, we're choosing not to at this point, and it's disgusting to me, but I'm working on it. Working on
I don't know though, because then you get in the comments and they're like, do we know better? Do they know? Do people know? Like, wait
it.
a
Fair,
minute.
fair,
Like,
fair.
oh
Well, I
no.
feel like enough professionals and the people who can make the system have enough never mind, I'm not gonna say that because you know what? I can't
I know,
expect
I
me
was like, I'm gonna
Yeah,
devil's
alright,
advocate because
take it
I
back.
worked with a second grade teacher who was like, ADHD is just made up by lazy parents. And I was like, why are you in a classroom? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I mean, I watched my own child get bullied by the son of a person who was a special education teacher. And it's just like you can see how like people there's just this disconnect between what it
Mhm,
means to really respect everyone like at a human basic level and it's because of the way that I see people treating each other and I'm
yeah,
like you're not modeling that.
and we don't have to, we can be so much better.
It would be so nice for everyone. Do they not understand?
Right.
Okay, so we're
Mhm.
almost at the hour mark, and I can keep swimming in this, like like, in this conversation, but I do want to ground in a little question, an interview question. So, centering around parenting. So,
Mhm.
if a parent is starting to feel, that there isn't something right about how their child is being treated at school. So, they've done the inner work, they are trying to parent differently. How would you suggest are some steps that they can advocate for their child? Because going against the school system is very overwhelming.
First things first, collect data.
Mm,
Find out information and have a paper trail because you want to always come with objective data. If something is going on with my kid, what is it specifically? How do I know? Then you want to articulate that to the teacher. Hey, I've noticed that this, and this. This is the data that I've gotten. There's an issue here. Can we work together to figure this out? 9 times out of 10, teachers will be willing to help. Love that. If they are not, then you go to the administration. Hey, I've noticed this, and this about my kid's behavior or my kid's academics or what have you. There's something going on here. I would like for either a diagnostic to be done, like an evaluation to be done to determine what's going on, or can we come up with some sort of solution among us and we can practice it across the board? There has to be that collaboration. There has to be that paper trail.
mhm.
And if you have to push for an evaluation, if there is something that you can't quite put your finger on, but you know something's up, push for that evaluation. If you have to get a pediatrician involved, do that as well. An advocate, do that as well.
I want to highlight the documentation part because I always forget about that, but I don't know how it is in Florida. For California, if a parent email everything, put everything in writing, and I had another parent say recommend even if you're on the phone or you have an after school conversation, immediately document it, like you said, to create that trail. And I don't know if it works that way in Florida, but for California, it activates a time clock. So that
Mm,
if you ask, like, I would like an assessment or I am concerned, they have 60 days to complete it, or it holds the school district accountable in some way. I'm not sure how that works in other states, but like, I think that parents don't understand how vital it is to document because the school's really there to defend the school, not
yes,
so much as a child.
yes. And also, if we're also honest, people forget stuff
Mhm,
and
mhm.
people are busy with all of these thousands of kids that are out of school. Be in their face. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. A hit dog, well, not, yeah, squeaky wheel gets the grease. That's the right idiom for that.
Yeah.
The more you're in their face with what you need, the more you can get it. I have students that I tutor that need IEPs, that need 504s, that need accommodations, and they're not getting them because the school. I remember one time I was in an IEP meeting and I was like, hey, you need to ask your kid, you should get an evaluation. And they're like, Gabe, you're not supposed to say that.
Yeah,
This
no.
kid got ADHD. What? If you don't get this child an evaluation real quick, because what you're not going to do is tell me what I can and cannot say to help this child. Because they in my class screaming like they ain't got no sense. You ain't got to deal with it. Get this boy an evaluation so he can get on something, figure
Well,
yourself out.
and let parents hear that, like, on top of documenting, it is also because, like, as a teacher, I was not allowed to say, "This child needs to be assessed." Like, I was not
Mhm.
allowed to tell I could be like, "Maybe you wanna talk to your pediatrician about attention concerns," which is so frustrating because I thought our goal in being a teacher is, well, the research says find them early. Early intervention is the best. You can get them supported and then they can wean themselves off those supports by the time they get to middle school. But don't talk about it
Mm-mm.
because we don't have the resources for it. So don't you say anything. So
Yeah, let's just let those kids keep suffering.
parents need to know it's on them. Like, there are great teachers and there's annoying teachers that their prince like myself, I always pick the 3 kids that I'm like, "I'm gonna battle. I'm gonna get these kids an SBIT this year." And I was driven out of my classroom for it. My principal hated me for it. So, like, it is on parents. Like, as a
Mhm.
parent, if you see that your child has a need, and it doesn't have to be just academic, it can be emotionally. My children are super intelligent. Can they regulate emotionally? No. That's where they struggle, and you're allowed as a parent to say, like, my kids' feelings matter. If they're really
Absolutely.
upset, they should have the space and the ability to regulate themselves.
Absolutely.
Alright, I'm gonna ask you a really big question now. Are you ready?
Do it.
Alright, let's do it. If you could redesign the education system from the ground up with nervous system health and human dignity at the center, what would be the first thing to go and what would you replace it with? All right. World, listen up. We're changing the world. Let's go. How are you going to fix our country right now?
because I'm actually already working on it.
Yes.
I would replace the entire curriculum with project-based learning,
Ooh,
the entire thing, and I'm already working on it.
I
There
like
is
that.
no reason why we should be forcing all of these kids, these teachers, to be doing this set curriculum that these kids are not engaged on. And the reason why most of these kids get frustrated and have behaviors is because the curriculum is not designed for a child's mind. It is
Can you
designed for them to fit in with the neurotypical model.
can you explain why the project base is different than the one-way directional learning that we have? Like, for a person who's not familiar with how teachers actually teach, like, how does that diverge from what we're doing right now?
Yes. So interdisciplinary project based learning is not like a group project or anything like that. It's teaching kids from a place where they're actively doing and seeing how what they're learning in the classroom, the concepts that they're learning are automatically applied by doing. So it's self directed for the most part, self exploratory. It's designed around how their brain understands information and how it fits into a real world model. So, for instance, a project can be design a city.
Mhm,
You want to include all four major disciplines. So, ELA, English Language Arts, mathematics, social studies, and science. Okay, well, you have to design the city actually. So, that's geometry, that's area, that's perimeter, that's multiplication, that's right there. Why is this angle this way? What is that angle? That's a standard. ELA, you have to design laws. That's also social studies. You have
mhm,
to create bylaws. That's politics. Then science, where are you going to put the water? What features are around it? What kind of flora and fauna is going to be affected by where you're placing your city? That gets kids super involved and engaged with their work where they're not focused on acting out. They're focused on how can I make this the way I want? It's creative. It's different than sitting down and taking notes and listening to somebody drone on and on about something that they can't understand.
mhm,
When they're doing it, they're exploring, they're creating it. It's like the highest level of Bloom's taxonomy,
mhm.
and they're just being introduced to a stand. Man,
Well, and it shifts the way we what behaviors we're prioritizing in school. Because when you're doing the classic way of teaching of like, I'm gonna stand at the front, you absorb and then regurgitate what you heard, the only behavior that we are accepting in that circumstance is compliance. Whereas if we switch it to a project base, which I'm obsessed with, which is a lot of work. It is a different way to teach. It is hard, but then the learning is on the students and you're able to access their learning in a way because I have dyscalculia. I can't do math. But I'm really good at science. Like I'm obsessed with physical science. So you do the calculations. I'm going to research what the geographical location looks like so that we can plan accordingly. You're able to recognize not everyone's going to be really good at everything. And we're not meant to be. That's not how our brains work.
mhm,
If we give kids access to be able to like use our brain as one system and then like you said you're hitting the math, well we have to write up this at a project, there's your ELA right away instead of it being a disconnected like take out your reading book, okay we're going to read a paragraph now, drop that, transition, math, this has nothing to do with this thing. Like I mean I'm obviously a fan for that. I feel like that is where you're accessing learning, that's where your classroom is looking like what it looks like in the real world.
exactly. And that's how humans have built every amazing invention ever. We put a man on the or people on the moon. I just saw them go up with my own eyes, and that was because people worked together and they used their strengths to work. It's the
Yes.
best design.
It's the best design, and we forget, like, we can use each other to lift each other up. We don't have to be in competition. Like, actually, like, when we collaborate and then if we're working together, if someone is upset, you're in close proximity and you're gonna be concerned about your friend's well-being rather than if you're just in a desk isolated alone. I don't care about what they're doing. I need to make sure that I'm quiet and I get my kudos because all I need to do is make sure that the teacher likes me and I get my good
Yeah,
marks and it would I think it would solve a lot of problems.
I think so. I know so.
So you're writing a book about this?
No, I'm developing a platform that helps teachers create and generate project-based learning.
Oh, you're doing the actual work for us. That's amazing. When do you know when you think you'll be complete? Is
This
this is
summer.
this breaking news?
It's breaking news. I haven't told a lot of people. I'm developing 2 new apps. One is for parenting and one is for teachers.
That's
Um,
huge.
and
Yes.
it's going to change the game, friend.
I think so too. I think it will because there's just no way that it could get worse. Like, I just don't think I don't think that if we start
Knock on
caring
wood.
about, like, kids feeling safe in their bodies, like, that's a bad thing.
Yeah, we'll talk, and I'll tell you more of the scale of what I'm doing.
Yes, and you're always welcome back if you wanna come on and explain
Please.
how it can literally change and hopefully save our our society. Because I think right now everyone could use a lot of regulation, a lot of
Yeah,
co-regulate. It's tired out here being able to see the systems in place. We're tired.
you can do anything about it. Well,
We're
we can, one step
we
at a
are.
time.
We are. Look at this, like, we are. Maybe if
Perfect.
even only a couple dozen people listen to this podcast, hopefully that's a couple dozen people who implement, like, their nervous system activation, and then we can just start healing outwards from there.
Well, I say you can tell how many seeds are in an apple, but you don't know how many apples are in a seed. So even if it's a dozen people, they have kids that will have kids that will have kids. So you've impacted 3 generations of people just from one little conversation.
And you can't take away someone's experience of feeling accepted and safe and loved. And so, like, that's something that, like education, no one can take away from you.
Yep.
All right. Well, we are at that hour mark. So, is there anything that you want to add or anything before I close out?
Just be patient, take a breath. I promise whatever your kids are going through is a phase.
Amazing. I love that. Well, this was such a powerful conversation, and I just want to take a second to really acknowledge that and honor it. Gabriel, thank you so much for sharing your perspective, your experience, and your work. This was a really fun conversation for me. I love going deep into the underneath of everything, and I'm really grateful you took the time to speak with me. And before we wrap up, can you let everyone know where they can find you, your work, and your socials?
Yes, all of my socials are the_indomitable, not abominable, indomitable, INDOMITABLE_ black man. That's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube.
And I will make sure to put all of that in the show notes below so people can easily find you, although you are the one with the amazing platform here. So thank you for coming on my tiny little platform and sharing what you know. I appreciate you.
It was an honor and a privilege.
All right. Well, I'm going to say goodbye now, and I can't wait to see all of my NeuroSpicy friends next week. Ta-ta!